Hello, Hannah. Thank you so much for doing this with
Hi.
me.
Hi, it's a pleasure. It's nice to be here.
So, we're going to go behind the scenes of your journey into private practice. Can you tell us from the beginning why you decided to go into private practice, how you made that decision?
Yeah, well, it's a bit mixed really. So when I qualified in 2014, I always did a little bit of private work to go alongside my NHS jobs and enjoyed it, but really like one or two clients a week. And I loved my NHS jobs. So
Yeah.
I've always been someone that's slightly tussled with not working in the NHS anymore, but loved my NHS jobs. And I worked in central Manchester in a psychotherapy service, and lots of it started changing. So there was just lots of changes with budgets and the setup of the service, and it was becoming a bit more stressful. And there was people who were, becoming burnt out, and there was lots of political kind of tensions around. And I kind of at that point was due to go on maternity leave, so was kind of getting a bit of a break from it, which was quite nice. When I returned from my mat leave, though, the whole service had changed. Just didn't fit with how I was able to work as a mum, and I suppose as a human, I'd had quite a rough year off with not very much sleep at all, and I just really needed to look after myself. So at that point, I went back to work in the NHS, kind of part time, but just knew that I had to make some changes. It wasn't working for me, so I decided to just absolutely throw myself in at the deep end and just leave. So I handed my
Which
notice
is
in after about a
scary, isn't
week.
it? With a young family and everything. That's what Rebecca did was on the other week. So
Yeah,
she
yeah, I
quite.
noticed that. I mean, it's obviously, I mean, I think it is quite a common thing, for me, I just knew that I had to look after my well-being and that
Right.
I couldn't continue to balance the working hours and all this kind of stuff with my young children and be the kind of mum that I wanted to be. And I had some little kind of things that I was doing, a few psychological assessments and a little bit of therapy work. So it wasn't kind of going in with nothing, but it was a
Yeah.
big jump. It
What
was
helped you make the decision, do you think?
So I had some good support. So at that time, my supervisor, Mary Welford, I've known her for a long, long time.
Mm.
She was someone who I kind of went to for advice about it because she had done a similar thing, made a move from the NHS. So it was really helpful to have somebody who'd done it,
Yeah.
and sort of give me an idea about what it could look like and what it might be and support me really. So that's when I started working with her kind of more formally in my private practice. But it felt like it was a bit of an act of survival, like I had to do it, otherwise I think I would have burnt out, or I would have just felt too,
Right.
for my well-being, I just don't think it would have been very good.
Yeah.
So it was the push I needed really, I think, to just make that move.
And how long
Um,
have you been in private practice now? Fully in private practice?
so fully since February 2018, so just over 5 years,
Wow,
which is how
five
long I've known
years. It
you.
feels like, yeah, because we kind of started having coffees and doing
Yeah,
kind of business support and peer support and catching up around
yeah,
that time as well. So gosh,
yeah, yeah, for
that's
five
absolutely
years.
flown.
I
Wow.
know.
And what were your biggest fears?
I think so, and these are all things that I spoke to you about, which you really helped me with actually. But
Oh,
so there's the fear of, I suppose, that not having that constant, continual income that you can rely on when you're in the NHS. That was a big
yeah,
worry for me. It was very safe to have that monthly income and to know what it was. But for me, in my situation, that wasn't quite enough either. So I really wanted to try and earn more income. So that was a worry, not having that, well, feeling like I wasn't going to get that consistent income.
yeah.
Um, Worried about consistently getting clients. So, like, am I going to fill my caseload? And I think these are all
Oh,
continual worries
so
that I
common.
still come across
Yeah.
in the people I supervise. Can I fill my caseload? Will I be feel like on my own quite a lot?
Mm,
I'd
isolation.
worked in teams the whole time, so and I love that. I love a good coffee in the kitchen,
Yeah.
chatting to people, and I was a bit worried I'd miss that as well, which I
Yeah.
think are all valid worries that a lot of people have.
Do you think is that coming to fruition, or do you feel isolated in private practice?
I think there's times when I miss what I used to have. So miss the team that I worked in, miss being able to, just knock on someone's door and ask for some advice. And so I don't think I can replace that in private practice, but what I've done, which helps negate that, is made contacts with people. So you are one of those people, which is always been helpful.
We go for coffees, don't we?
We do, yeah, we do. We do
Out.
self-care days and all that kind of stuff. Have a really good supervisor. So I think there's always going to be that little kind of hole that won't be filled, because I think that's quite NHS specific to get that.
And you've done a WhatsApp group as well, which is nice. And I know I don't always engage in it, but sometimes it's nice to just know it's there and for sharing referrals and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I set that up with all my supervisees, and it's just a space really to ask for resources or share referrals or ask for referrals. And I think it just keeps a little bit of contact with people. I actually don't have loads of time to do all of that because I am busy. So but it's just nice to have those things around you for as and when you might need it, and it's the support network really, which feels really important.
Just knowing people are there if you ever need it, even though I know sometimes there are messages and I don't get to reply or to look at them, but I just go, oh, it just pops up and I think, but if I need to, it's nice to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. That's important. And then the financial, I think, I remember you saying to me, you'll be fine, you'll get referrals, like you just trust it. Like
have you?
Yeah, I always get them. I mean, it's not always continually busy, it just comes and goes in waves, but there's something, I think I remember you saying this to me a long time ago, you've just got to ride those waves of, you'll be really busy, you might be a bit more quiet, but then there's time there to do other things. And I've since starting, I haven't had a month where I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible, I'm going to have to look at my alternatives. So whilst I still kind of keep an eye on finances, and and I think, you've just got to hold your nerve a bit with it. For me, I just had to hold my nerve initially. And wait for that kind of to come, wait for it to feel more consistent.
What do you think have been the best strategies that you've used for building your client base up?
I think it's hard to know. So I got a website quite early on, and it was a good website. I think it's a good website.
It's gorgeous. It's lovely. I know you put a lot of work into that, didn't you?
And what I really wanted from that was, I don't know whether that's a tool of kind of getting clients in, because to be honest with you, I'm not that aware of all the SEO stuff and how high I rank and all that kind of stuff. But I think if it brings clients to look at a choice of therapists, and one of them is me, I really wanted my website to sort of show who I am, how I hold myself, what I do. So really make it quite personal as possible, really. Creating that kind of what the environment might be that I kind of work in terms of how I express myself and portray myself. So that was really important, I think, because a lot of people comment on that who come to me. I did my Psychology Today profile, which I think has got working consistently. Sometimes it's quiet, but then sometimes it gets busier. I think the other thing,
interesting, because I've tried that, and it's just I just did it for 6 months for the free thing. It just didn't. I think I got one client, so.
I think there's an algorithm. I don't know how it works. I also did a video. They asked you to do a video on it recently, where explain yourself, and so it feels more kind of real. And I started doing it, and it was 10 seconds. And there's only so much you can say in 10 seconds about yourself.
Wow.
But actually, I think that's brought in a little bit more. So whilst it's very quick, and to be honest with you, I panicked a bit when I was doing it. I think it's like, it gives you a bit more insight into that person as well. So I did that, but I wouldn't rely on that. And then I think as time's gone on, it's become more word of mouth and recommendation. So, and that's something that I think just takes time. And I remember you saying that to me a long time ago, but recently I've had someone get in touch who's a friend of a client, an ex-client, and things like that. And I think you start to get known for doing the work.
How long do you think that took you from kind of building up to getting that kind of word of mouth?
At least a couple of years. Maybe 3 years, if not a bit more.
Right.
I think, and I also have clients that come back into therapy, which is lovely. And I always leave the door open to them and say, this might be the first chapter of the work we do, but, you know, you're always welcome to come back for another. So I think as time goes on, you tend to get, I don't know if you have this, but a steady
Yeah,
rate
which
of
is
people
what
coming back.
I didn't expect that. So I've like
Yeah,
gone marketing crazy because I thought, oh, 6, 12 sessions just as the same in the NHS and there'll be massive
yeah,
turnover.
no,
There's not. And people
no.
come back, which is
Yeah,
just
people come back
like
and
you said,
people
I love
stay
it.
for longer because they can
Yeah,
choose to, and I think that's so lovely. And for me, it's really
yeah.
rewarding because you get to do some really I mean, I work in a way where I work quite in depth, so really
Mm,
lovely, long, in-depth pieces of work.
yeah,
And yeah, they might then come back and do a bit more because they know, you know, they have a period of time where they consolidate it all and then come back. So I do leave space in my diary for those clients too. So I
yeah.
think time kind of brings that really. You can't do that without
Mm,
having you know, a few years of doing it.
yeah,
Um, but
absolutely
I'm
too.
not great at being a big marketer, to be honest with you. I should.
Oh, yeah. What's the mindset there? Is that a mindset block, or do you
Well,
just not
yeah,
like it, or
it's probably a bit of mindset. It's finding the time to do it for
the
me because
time?
I do condense my hours to work around the
Yeah, you've got
kids.
busy family life, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
And
I
what's
think so.
good is that you're not doing lots and lots of marketing, but it's all still working for you.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
busy, you've got
exactly.
a full
Yeah, and
caseloads.
that's what I kind of think. You know, at the moment it's fine. If anything
Yeah,
changed, I might need to think about that. That's fine. I do some
yeah,
social media stuff. I don't have a massive social media presence, but um, I do bits. Again, I think it's more for people when they look me up to get an idea of what I'm like,
yeah,
and I think that
yeah,
can then help someone make a decision.
yeah,
So whilst it doesn't
yeah.
get clients in, I think it does give a picture of what sort of therapist you are.
Yeah,
So it is. I think
no,
it is
that's
important to have
lovely.
some presence.
Absolutely. And what have been the most rewarding things for you in private practice and being in private practice, do you think?
Think so. So what we were saying then about kind of doing for me longer term or more in-depth
Mm,
work, that is so rewarding for me because I worked in a service where you were told how many sessions you could do. Another, you know, I was quite lucky actually in mine. There was quite a lot of flexibility, but still it was quite, you know, we had waiting lists. So I love being able to really delve deep into kind of what's going on for someone and really look behind what the challenges are.
yeah.
That's very rewarding for me. I love being in charge of my own diary. I love,
Oh,
you know,
me
maybe
too.
I'm a
That's
control freak, I
nice.
don't know. um, I just love being able to take the leave that I need to take or want to take, start on the hours that I can start. And for me, it's always been about my well-being. And
Mm,
what the practice has allowed me to do is really focus on that. And yes, there's times when I'm busy and a bit stressed, and you know, the world of a therapist is not easy. But doing it in this format allows me to look after myself, so I can do the
yeah,
job that I want to do. Whereas I felt in the NHS I
absolutely.
couldn't do that. I couldn't look
Yeah.
after myself like I needed to be able to be good at what I do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what does your working week look like now? How many clients do you see and how do you
It
structure your
varies. Yeah.
diary?
Yeah. um, I generally work Monday to Wednesday doing client work, and then I have a Thursday as a bit of a kind of admin, you know, maybe doing
Coffee.
my so coffee with Sarah, peer supervisions, all that kind of stuff, a bit of
Yes.
yoga. So, but I tend to do my client work at the start of the week. And you know, I might see up to maybe 15 people a week. That's a busy week. You know, usually 12 to 15, but including in that are sort of supervision and private practice coaching stuff that I do with
Yeah.
psychologists and other therapists. Um, I'm also, you know, as the time's gone on, I've really been able to choose the hours that I want to work as well. So I used to
Mm,
work quite late. I used to do evening appointments. I would offer anything so people could, you know, I could get clients, which probably paid off initially, but now I'm just
you
quite
can
clear on that.
structure it.
Yeah, I work between the hours of 9 and 3 or 4, and um, I love that. I love being able to do that, which is really nice.
And what are your
So
biggest challenges now? Because you're 5 years in, what would you say it is now?
I think for me, I want to being able to broaden a bit more, and so I do a lot of therapy, so that is quite intense, you know, and I
Yeah.
work in a way
Yeah.
that's emotion focused, so it is quite intense. So it's getting the balance right of that, so getting the balance of
Mm,
between that and doing my coaching and supervision, and I do some workplace well-being, so it's trying to get that balance right.
mm.
And finding the time, I think, to branch out and do other things, because you've got to have the headspace and the time to do that. You
Yeah.
don't get that in your working hours, and I think that's
Yeah.
what's hard. We get paid for the 50 minutes or the hour that we work, so
But there's
everything
so
else
much
is kind of,
more. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, obviously if you want to earn money, you need to book clients in, but then you need to find the time to
The
focus on other
headspace.
things, and that's a challenge for me, because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm finding that predominantly I'm doing the paid client work, so I have to
Yeah.
try and carve out this extra time and then be able to stay focused and not, do the washing or go for a coffee or those kind of things.
How have you found kind of getting that work-life balance? What kind of things do you do? Do you have any things you make
Yeah,
sure are
yeah, I think
non-negotiable or?
I've become really boundaried with what I'll offer. So those
Yeah.
appointment times, if someone's saying, well, I can only do 5 o'clock, then I will do my best to suggest another therapist to them who I know
Yeah.
maybe works evenings. I won't just kind of close it down, but I'm very clear that this is what I do. Um, so that feels really important, the boundaries of my time. I just always prioritize, well, as much as I can prioritize self-care. I mean, I feel it's like it makes me sound a bit self-indulgent, but
It
I've done my
doesn't,
own.
and
Yeah,
yeah, we use our minds and our health to do our work, don't we? So if
yeah,
we're not in a good place, or we're stressed, or ratty, or chasing our tail, I think that comes across in our
yeah,
therapy. We just can't
yeah,
be like that. If we're
absolutely.
anxious, it's yeah,
Yeah, and I think, we're like this resource that people use, and I think we don't actually realize how draining that can be. And there's times when I think about clients in the middle of the night, or
yeah,
I'm wondering how someone's getting on. We hold so much in our minds, and that's okay. And I see that as part of the job. I'm not worrying about them. People just come into my thoughts, and I've got to send this to this
yeah.
person, or so I think for me, in order to be able to do that, I have to get the balance right. So I
Yeah.
have to take time for myself. I take regular holidays. So as in not necessarily going away, but I take leave, every 6 or 7 weeks,
That's
maybe.
nice. Yeah.
I've just started taking a longer break in the summer holidays, and part of that's childcare, but also for the past 2 years I've done it, and it really makes a difference. It sort of
And
resets
Mary
me.
does it, doesn't she? Our
Yeah,
sister, we've both
yeah,
had Mary, and she
yeah,
has, is it August off?
yeah. No,
Which
well, she
I
has
was
about six
like,
weeks off. Yeah,
6 weeks off. She
yeah,
started with 4, and now she's just gone away for 3, and it's not
yeah.
August.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so like it really made me think, actually
You
it
can
helps
do
me sort of
that.
reset for the rest of because I think up to Christmas it's busy for everybody.
Yeah,
I really feel that I can switch off. Whereas a few days here and there, it's just not
yeah.
enough really, is it? Your
It's
mind's a little
not,
bit in the
no.
work.
I'm start thinking about these role models that are having these longer periods off. It's really
Yeah.
nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and kind of
And
balancing that, so earning enough to do that. Obviously, that's
yeah.
important, and I'm lucky that I can. But we're not overly kind of raking it in. It's just that for me, I get that balance right of what I want to earn and what I can do with that, and then time I can take for myself. But
How's
yeah, I
it
could
been for
work
you
more.
financially? Because this is what everybody really wants to know.
Yeah,
Compared to the
no, indeed.
NHS. Yeah. What's the money like,
Let's
Hannah?
get to the serious stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one, because when I think about that, I feel uncomfortable talking about money. But ultimately, I do believe that we offer a serious amount of value for money. When you look at other services and what other people charge, you haven't got half of what the qualifications of many of the therapists and psychologists that I work with have. It's good value for money. I think for me, when I think about it, what the money allows me to do is not work 5 days a week. So I could work 5 days a week and probably be very kind of financially stable if I could fill it with clients and work. So I think, it's allowed me to not work full time and still be financially secure and stable.
Yeah. And
And
show up
some
for your
months,
clients in
yeah.
the best way possible, which is lovely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I don't think it's, when you look at an hourly rate, you think, wow, that person must be earning loads, but it's only for 12 hours a week. So,
Yeah.
actually you've got to make that time in between really work for you. You don't want to be wasting time in the middle of the day. That's why I do condense my hours and I work really hard on those days. But it has allowed me to be a bit more financially secure and look after myself a bit more. And, you know, that's really important. So that I'd be lying if I didn't say that was an element of why I made that move.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
my husband worked in social care, which is, not a big earner. So between us, I wanted to be able to take my kids on holiday and look after my well-being and join a gym and all those things that come with it. So yeah, I don't think it's the kind of big, unless you're working full-time hours a week and filling your days. But I do think there's a financial benefit to doing it. Yeah, you've just got to be
Yeah.
good with your finances as well and
Yes.
learn how to pay your tax
Savings.
bills all those kind of things.
And if somebody was just starting out, I know you do some work with people that are setting up in private practice, and that's part of your supervision that you offer and coaching. What advice do you give people that are just setting up in private practice?
Um, well, it's varied really. So I think that when I do my sort of coaching and supervision for that, it tends to be a role of real containment because I think that's what I needed,
Yeah.
containment and also kind of very practical advice. So things like getting your referrals in, where are you putting yourself out there, administrative things that have really helped me. So having like a note system and a clinical booking system and invoicing, all the things that make your life easier
Yeah.
have
So
been
you can focus on
are
your
so
craft.
important. Yeah, and I was really lucky because you shared a lot of that with me when I first started 5 years ago. So I've been able to share that with people, and I think it is a leap of faith, and I think it's a scary thing to do. So I suppose what I hope that I do is offer that kind of the support to be able to do that and think of kind of ways in which people can broaden their practice as well, because it doesn't have to be just therapy. I don't mean just therapy, but I mean like it doesn't have to be therapy on its own. There's lots of stuff that we are as therapists that we are capable of doing. So I try and get my supervisees or people that I know that start to think about that as well, like how they can broaden their work and
Broaden
use
their
their
vision.
skills in
Yeah.
different ways. So
Is,
yeah, quite a mix really.
is there anything you would do differently if you went back, if you were starting again?
Well, I don't know. Do you know one thing I probably would do? Like I think I think it's been all right. Like I don't have any massive regrets. I don't think, oh God, why didn't I do that? I think for me now would be about thinking about social media and building an audience. Like I've seen you do that over the years, and it's amazing. And I think it's a long game really,
It really
and
is. Yeah.
and I think that and I think that's
A lot of
something that
energy.
yeah, and it's something that I haven't had the time and energy to really do, and maybe I might have put a bit more into that if I could. 'Cause it's something that I do want to be working on now for some of my future things that I'm doing. But I think I don't think I've made any big mistakes. I think that I've had the right support around me,
Yeah.
and maybe I think I've been lucky that it's worked out really well, but I have worked really hard to get all that
You
stuff
have.
into place. So I think
Yeah.
being organised is really key, and then
Yes.
having the right people around you, and the stuff that you do, the private practice is amazing because it's all there in one place. Like, and I was lucky to
Oh.
have you, but a lot of people don't have that. They didn't, over the years I've been supervising, they've not had that access to, okay, do this, you need this is really
But
helpful.
hopefully, with this kind of therapist corner and stuff, that's
Yeah,
kind of bringing that into more of a community so more people can share
yeah,
this information that just needs to be out there
yeah,
and broader as well.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and feel like
And
connected to people, and you can draw on other people's
yeah.
wisdom and advice, and yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, because it sounds like that community and people around you to take that leap of faith has been kind of
Yeah,
really
I think that's
important.
really, really key.
Yeah,
And
it
I
definitely is.
I genuinely think that I think I would have been, you know, it would have felt quite different if it had just felt like I
Yeah,
was just doing it on my own.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
And what does your future look like? Where are you going to be in another 5 years? Do you have any big plans for the
You're going
dynasty?
to interview me in 5 years and we'll find out if it comes
Yes, that I
true.
will be doing. That's the plan.
Well, okay, there's a few things. One of the things that
Okay.
I've loved about doing private practices, being able to focus more on like my real interest for therapy and not just, really kind of navigate this journey of how I want to be as a therapist. And one thing that I've been doing more and more work on is like the body and bringing the body into therapy and how the body holds trauma. And so really that's the path I'm kind of wanting to take more of, kind of the somatic stuff and body, and I do yoga, so integrating things like that would be like my ideal.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to write a book. So this is my next plan.
Now you said it out
I
loud.
know, I know,
It's
I
coming
know.
out. That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's why they're kind of growing the audiences, those sorts
Yeah.
of things. I know that's going to be really important. So I think what I've realised is it's so important to have like a bit of a creative outlet as well, and not get too stuck in just doing one-to-one client work, which can be so rewarding and so lovely, but also very draining and hard work. So I found that when I think about things like, doing more training on bodywork stuff, or writing a book, or doing, more supervision stuff, it's me using a different part of my brain that
Yeah.
helps keep me
It's
motivated and energized.
energizing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it balances out then.
Yeah.
So there's
And
some
that's the lovely
plans,
thing
which is
about
nice.
private practice, isn't it? That you can be very creative with it and create
Yeah,
amazing
and I think,
things.
and I've had my youngest has just gone to school, so now I've got a bit more time and energy and headspace to put into it. So I think, for those people who are thinking, oh God, I'm not even anywhere near that, I've got no time for that. That's, it will come.
Yeah.
And I've waited quite a few years until I've got to a point now where I think, oh, I could do something else. Um, so yeah, it's exciting and
That
slightly
is amazing.
nerve-wracking.
So it's been the right decision for you ultimately.
Yeah, I absolutely wouldn't change my decision that I
That's
made. There are times when I slightly long for the NHS, but I think that's a longing for a version of it that used to be there, that probably isn't for many people there anymore. So I've
yeah.
always had that little kind of part of me that's, that feels a bit sad maybe that I didn't stay in it, but for every other reason, my well-being, financially, the freedom, means that it was the right decision for me, without a doubt.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing, just being so honest. That's fantastic.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Where can people find you if they'd like to get in touch with you, and if they need a coach,
Yeah.
supervision, or
Yeah, that would be lovely. I'd be very happy to hear from anybody who wants that kind of thing. That's something I love doing, is supporting therapists and psychologists to develop their practices alongside clinical supervision. So my website is www.drhannaetaylor.co.uk. I am on Instagram. Not very. Yeah, I am. I've just done a post this week actually. So, and that's
so
just
you
Dr.
are,
Hannah
you're
E.
all over
Taylor.
it. You are.
But if you go to my website, there's contact forms on there. You're very welcome to get in touch with me. Anybody who's got any questions or wants some extra support when setting up,
Amazing. And
be
I'll
very
put the
happy to
links
hear
in
from you.
the show notes or below this video somewhere. So thank you so
Brilliant.
much for your
Oh,
time
it's a
today.
pleasure. Thanks, Sarah. And thank you to you for being my source of support for the past 5 years.
Well, it's
Honestly, you've
you're
been,
very dear friends, so it's been an absolute
and
pleasure.
everybody gets to benefit from this now through this lovely space you're creating. So it's great.
Oh, thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.